This is the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, sitting here over in the beautiful Rangeley, Maine, the home of Lee Libby.
Hey.
And Joe Cruzy's here with me, too.
Hello.
And Happy New Year to everybody. I hope this year's a lot better than the last. And so this week we're going to talk a little bit about mistakes we've made tracking. I won't be able to talk any because I've never made any, but... Yeah, right.
And there's not enough time for me.
I still tell people, I still repeat the mistakes I tell everybody else not to do.
Every year.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to keep learning the hard way, you know.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, what might be a mistake one time might not be the next time, you know what I mean? Mistakes sometimes are really just a decision away, you know. But there's a lot of them that really... You know, I don't call mistakes decisions, you know, because mistakes are things like, you know you shouldn't have done it, but you did it anyway. I guess that's kind of where I'd put that.
I never know, though, till afterwards.
Well, yeah, that's Monday morning quarterbacking.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe somebody can learn from our mistakes.
What do you think the most common mistake is?
I think the most common mistake is giving up.
Yep.
Yeah, people give up.
And what I mean, I guess it is.
That's a mistake.
Yep.
You know, because you've made a choice to not continue on, and I always think it's a mistake because the problem with giving up is you'll never know what could have happened. You could always think about it or speculate about it, but you're never going to know. You could have shot the biggest buck you ever seen or whatever, but you're never going to know because you give up. And if you continue giving up like that, then you probably ain't going to shoot too many bucks, you know. So that's a mistake people make.
It's easy, too. I mean, it happens to everyone where you get into a situation where you just tell yourself, oh, this is never going to happen. Like this conditions, you know, it's too noisy or there's no tracks here, or even if you're on the track and you get into a bunch of them and I can't work it out, I'm just going to go look for another track. Or I think it's probably the most common thing for sure.
Well, now that you mentioned that, looking for another track, that's probably another great big mistake. And I've done that and I've repeated that, and it's almost always a mistake. Is when you find a good track first thing in the morning, and then you say, I'm going to go look around a little more so maybe I can find a better one or a fresher one. Because you might find one in the morning, you know it was made like 8 o'clock the night before, you know, and maybe I can find a fresher one than that. And you leave that track. I've gone many a days, go the rest of the day and never see another good track all day long. Mm-hmm. That's a painful mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's painful.
Because that's one of the things that's eating at you that whole day too while you're...
Yeah. Yeah, you're walking faster and faster, just thinking you're gonna find that track, and it don't happen. And it's funny because it's usually the days that you go to try to look for another one. You think because you see one so quickly first thing, you think, oh well, there's not gonna be no problem finding another one. Take the track when you got it. You know what I mean?
I got a story about that if you want to hear it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it, Lee.
So New Hampshire. Early one morning, like 6 inches of fresh snow. I'm over there early, cruising.
So more than we have now.
Yeah, more than we have now. How's the snowmobiling over there?
Oh, it's good for carbide sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go up a gravel road there.
Yeah.
All you can hear is your skegs clicking on the gravel.
No, I went to New Hampshire one morning. It was a good snow, and I was excited about it. And I got over there, and I cut this big track with wide stance, long stride, but he was almost filled right in. I just happened to catch this thing out of the corner of my eye. So I got out and checked it out, and I thought he was headed uphill, but there was a little pie-shaped piece It was probably 50 acres between these two roads. And I'm like, I was just up that other road. I must have missed his track. So I was like, should I just run in there? Like, he could be right in that little piece of pie-shaped piece, or he could have followed the river down. I don't know. So I drive by it. All day I'm thinking about it. I ended up cutting another track. I take that track. I actually jumped that deer. That was the deer. I never told you the story about the gun jamming because of the tape. Remind me to tell you that one. That's another mistake. But let's go back to this. So I missed one deer because my gun jammed that day. So it's about 3 o'clock. That deer had circled back almost to the truck, and the truck literally was a few hundred yards away. So I'm like, you know what? I didn't have any heat in that old Ford of mine, the one we made the movie with. Yeah. And I got to drive back to Rangeley, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get started early. The truck's right there. I'm not going to do it to myself. So I jump down. I get almost to the truck. I can see the truck, and that big buck, I had actually parked on that other road. That big buck had come up out of that pie piece, walked right beside of my truck down the road, and had crossed the main road and was crossing this beaver dam, and it was smoking. And I'm like, you son of a gun. So I take off running down the road. So I run down the road to the main road. It's only 300 or 400 yards.
The visual of you in a panic running down the road is just too good. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Sweating and everything.
So I know I told you this story, but so he crosses a road. There was a logging truck when I was coming out of the woods, and I could hear the logging truck going up the road. And when I get to the truck road, the deer track is in the top of the truck track. And I'm like, oh, he's right here. So I bail down over that bank, and then there's a beaver flowage, and I hear the ice break in front of me. He goes through the ice in one spot, and I hear him jump. I'm like, so he's right there. I get down there, and he had walked across that ice all the way to the other side and broke through on the edge. And now he's in this thick stuff next to this beaver flowage, and he's headed for this big hardwood ridge. I'm like, I got him. So I start walking around the end of the beaver flowage, across the beaver dam itself, and it's good. We're good. There's about a 6-foot space in between the two things, and I couldn't jump it, but the deer walked across it. I'm like, if it'll hold that big deer up, it'll hold me. Well, I took one step onto that ice, and right under I went. I come up out of there like a frigging cat. I'm like, oh my God. But he's close, right? So I don't want to stop. So he heard me go through the ice. And so I get through that thick spot, and he'd run up through this hardwood ridge. So I can't stop. I'm soaking wet. So I run to the top of that ridge trying to catch him. He had stopped and must have watched me come up, just a little bit. I'm sure as soon as he saw me, he took off. And I get to the top, and you could see where he'd stop and turn back and look, and then he started running again. So now it's almost dark, getting close to 4 o'clock, and I'm soaking wet in a truck with no heat in it, an hour from home. So I'm like, son of a gun. So I went back to the truck, headed back to Rangeley, and about froze getting back. But yeah, that was a mistake. He was in that pie piece laid down probably all day long. He was probably 150 yards from my truck all day long.
It's a simple fix on that heat. You just run a pipe from your tailpipe and run it right into the window. It'll give you all the heat you need.
Yeah.
You've done that a couple times, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, but usually I'm in my garage trying to take care of all my problems.
We got to hear about the tape now.
Oh, yeah. So that I had cut another deer track. There was a signpost rub on the top of this ridge, and I'm like, I got to run up and check it because that deer was kind of headed in that direction, right? So I'm thinking, I must have missed his track because the wind's blowing in this road. I just can't find it. But I know if I get up through this cutoff, when I get into that thicker stuff where that signpost was, his track's going to be there. I'm convinced this deer had crossed the road, and I just couldn't see his tracks because of the wind and the snow, and he was on top of that ridge. So I head up in there. I get to almost to where that signpost is, and there's another buck track, and it's a pretty good buck track. So I'm like, well, I don't think that's him, but it's okay. Now, mind you, it's all fresh. You know what I mean? There's a little snow in the tracks, but we got 6 inches of snow, and I got a track in front of me with 1.5 inches of snow in it. To me, that's a fresh track, right? So I'm taking it, and I'm walking down this little aisleway, and it opens up into that beautiful spruce and fir on top of a ridge with that 3 and 4 foot spruce and fir, like the regen underneath it, just one of them beautiful things. And I ended up killing that deer, that big 8 over there that year that was in the movie. I ended up killing him within 300 yards of where this all happened. So I'm walking down this aisleway, and I can hear something coming, and this little crotchhorn steps out into that aisleway at like 15 feet away, and I'm like, oh. So I stand there, and I'm not moving a bit, and I've got my gun up, and he keeps looking behind him, and I'm like, what is he looking at? Like, what's he doing? And all of a sudden, this buck comes out and drives an antler right into that crotchhorn's ass end, just like two. Well, he jumps. When the crotchhorn jumps, the buck takes one step right out into the middle of that aisleway, and there ain't a stick between me and him at 15 feet. And I'm like, oh. So I go click, and I pull up. The safety goes click, and he looks at me and starts running. I pull up, I fire, boom. He comes to a complete dead stop, and he turns around and he looks at me. It was a clean miss, the first one. Clean miss. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. He's standing right there, and he's looking right back at me. I pull up. I pull the trigger. Nothing. I look down. I've got a shell halfway extracted. No, I got a shell on top of a shell, not even extracted. I'm like, never before. And
that was in your semi-automatic.
That was a 7400, yep. Never happened before. And has never happened since. I'm like, oh, shit. So this deer's looking at me. I reach around. I grab my Leatherman. I'm trying to fudge with that. I get it, the live shell out. I reach in there, and I'm digging out. And this thing's standing there looking at me, and I'm trying to dig it out, and I can't get it out. Finally, he takes off running. He doesn't want anything to do with me. And I'm like, what is going on? So I finally get dug out, right? And I'm looking at it, and it's got this black gooey shit on it. And I'm like, what is that? So I'm looking. Well, earlier that season, I had some of those like 180 grain picket nose bullets in there. And I had 4 180 grain round
What
nose.
kind of bullets?
The picket nose, like just, what I'm talking about. Picket.
Pointed.
Oh, okay.
Pointed, yeah.
Like the ballistic tip.
Yeah, but I always had these 4 180s wrapped with electrical tape in my pack. And I'd had them there for years. And I'm like, I'm going to get rid of those pointed ones and put the 180s in, right? Because that's the choice bullet. Well, when I did, I never thought to wipe that grease, that sticky tape stuff off. Well, as soon as that went off and that got hot, that bonded right to the inside of that chamber, and that thing would not come out of there. So I was that's mistake number 2 for that day. But anyways.
Yeah, that's funny you were talking about the shells getting jammed in. I had that happen on a friend of mine. I was guiding on a moose hunt. Oh. And the moose came out, and he fired once, and it was a bolt action, and he's working it, and he gets all flustered, and it's jammed, and the bull stops right in the winter road broadside looking at us. And I look at the gun, and there's 2 shells, both of them live, because he's short. He got so excited he was jacking out one that was good. And anyway, it got 2 shells jammed in there trying to go in the chamber.
Was they picket ones?
Yeah, they were picket ones. Yeah, they were. They're those ballistic picket ones. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, just be calm. Don't move. I said, give me the gun, and I pulled my Leatherman out. And while the bull is standing there, he's probably 120 yards. And he's looking at us, and I picked that shell out of there, and I got 1 shell back in and handed him the gun, and I said, shoot it. And just as the bull went to go, he fired 1 shot. That was enough. Yeah. And killed it. But it jammed. I never saw that before. It jammed like perfectly in there. You couldn't get him out with your fingers. I mean, it took a tool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
that's funny. It took a tool. You were the Leatherman.
Yeah. It was me. I just used my finger.
Oh, shit.
So So I was sitting there thinking while we were talking about this about mistakes, and I think for me the biggest thing is just it's not a matter of looking down, because I've gotten over that over the years. Because I think a lot of people that just start, that's something they always have to work on, is they're looking at the track so much, and that happens because a lot of times you're having to work that, and especially if you're not used to following tracks, and there's definitely something to it where once you've done it for a while, you can move along a lot faster and not have to look down all the time. But even not looking down, just not looking around enough. I think a lot of times we get focused on where we think the deer is going to be standing instead of where he might be standing. And so in our mind, in our perfect scenario, we're sitting there thinking, I'm going to look over here. I think he might be over here. In reality, he's over to the right instead of the left. So I think just having looking all the time and having a good field of vision and not getting locked in to where you think he's going to be standing, because a lot of times he's not there.
Right.
He's
where they're usually standing?
In the tracks.
Where you can't see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're usually behind something, huh?
Yeah.
Most of the time, they ain't standing out in the open. And usually if they were, they'd already run, Usually they're in behind something, and maybe they missed the movement and they still haven't even saw you yet. And but I always told people I look as far as I can see first. Most people are looking around close, you know what I mean? So depending on if it's hardwoods or whatever it is, I'm always looking as far as I can see, and then I bring my eyes back closer, scanning all those things, a blowdown or thicket for spruces or whatever it is. That's what I do. Because if something's far away and it takes off, you ain't got as much time to shoot as if you see it later. If it's closer and you ended up seeing it later, then you got a better chance of getting a whack at it anyway.
I think that's one of the biggest differences, because I also like to stand hunt. So the biggest difference between the stand hunting and the tracking and stand hunting, you're looking for movement. You're always just easy looking back and forth, and you're looking for movement, where obviously you want to see movement when you're tracking, but you better be looking for one that's standing still.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
Usually if you catch movement, it's too late.
I tried to shoot one in the neck once. All I could see was his face. And I thought to myself, well, if I bring it down, right, I think I know which way he's standing. So, you're trying to estimate where the chest is. And obviously he wasn't there. He was looking right at me. And I don't know why I didn't shoot him right in the throat with that white patch, because I could have. But I was younger, and I'm just thinking, oh, I can see his face. Oh, there's the white patch. Oh, I think he's turned left. Oh, right there. Gone. That was a nice deer too, but that was another mistake. This could last for hours. The black buck in New Hampshire, you heard that story, Hal?
Yeah.
I don't know if Joe's heard that one. That black buck laid right there on the ground in front of me and Kevin Harrison at 50 yards it seemed like a long time, probably a 30 or 40 second period of time, and we were convinced that was a moose. And finally Kevin says, well, only one way we're going to find out. We got to walk over there and get him up. That deer had no idea we were there.
It was one of those melanistic deer.
It was coal black. I just see another one there on Facebook the other day. Somebody shot.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyways, he was a beautiful black deer. He ended up getting killed by a guy in Vermont, I believe. He showed me the picture.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, now I remember that story.
Yep. But no.
Didn't expect to see that.
No. If we'd have shot it, it'd been a calf moose. I'll just shoot it, see what it is.
That might be a problem.
Yeah. But no, there's all kinds of mistakes. Circling. Remember the time I told you that guy shot that deer in front of me? I kept it was in a beautiful hardwood ridge, and this deer just kept kind of dubbing around like he wanted to lay down, and I bumped him once, and he didn't go far, wanted to lay down. I bumped him again, didn't go far, wanted to lay down. I'm like, I'm going to circle. So I circled once, circled twice, circled 3 times. All of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, shoot. I mean, it was close. Had to be the same deer, so I didn't even bother. I just headed back to the truck, called Hal, talking to him that night. I told him the story. He says, you'd have probably killed that deer if you hadn't circled. No shit.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that if I leave the track, and And I don't very often. The only time I do is if I think pretty reasonably sure he's laying right there. He's like, I've got it narrowed down, like there's a 90% a better chance he's laying there. If the situation's right, I might make that circle just to see if he'd come out, but not too much. I stay on the track. You know, if you leave the track, you don't know what's going on, right? You just left and you made a circle. You don't know what the heck that deer did, which way direction he turned, or, you know, if he started to feed, or you don't know nothing about him anymore.
That one that I had, I was guiding Derek this year. I think it was Thanksgiving Day, because there's one that kept on laying down. Had we had more time and kept after that one, I would have circled, because he was so predictable. He was laying down so often, but he was doing it where it was, I'll never say impossible, but it would have been really tough to get up on him, because every time he lay down, he's behind something. I mean, picking one out at 120 yards when they know you're on them and they're just laying there, it's tough. So I think in that situation, I think there's sometimes, especially like that, when they just when they keep going bedding, you know, you can switch it up a little bit, because they're watching their backtrack more than anything. Yeah.
Well, that's like an out of the ordinary circumstance where you gotta kind of think outside the box and do something different that's probably a better chance of working, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you guys a story about it's one of them bucks. I got a lot of bucks that haunt me that I didn't get, but the one that haunts me the most was the biggest ones are always haunt you the most, right? And but it was one that I was trying to creep up on. It was bare ground, and I think must have been the first week of the season or something. It was bare ground, and I'd circled this whole mountain that day, just scouting, really. I was scouting because it's where I was thinking about doing remote hunt, you know. And I'd gone all the way around. It was just dry. It was windy and dry leaves and a sunny day. And I was coming back, kind of been all the way around the mountain, and I'm coming down this, it's kind of like a boundary line, a yellow line. And I'm coming down that line, and I see this, it was like the edge of where they cut, and it was just like a nice select cut back when they used to use chainsaws and leave the whole top of the tree in the woods, you know.
The good old days.
The good old days, yeah. They'd cut some yellow birch in, them big fluffy yellow birch tops are laying there from the winter before. And
can you tell we're at Lee's shop?
Yeah. Lee's making money while we're talking.
Cha-ching. Yeah.
Cha-ching. Cha-ching. Another mirror goes out the door. Cha-ching. So anyways, I see this. I looked over. I just come down below this, one of them blowdowns, and I see a nice big buck just kind of walking slow. And I just no more than saw it, and it disappeared. And when it did, it was like I said to myself, I think it laid down. It was like it didn't like walk away. It just disappeared, you know. And I said, I think that buck laid down right there. So I stood there and looked and looked and looked and nothing. And I said, I'm going to try to sneak over there. So every time the wind would blow, I'd take a step, you know. And I was trying to go around the upper end of that blowdown, kind of get behind it and go around it because I had cover. And the deer was probably only 40 yards from me. I mean, it's close anyway. And I started around that blowdown, and I mean, I was just painstakingly going slow. And then a doe and a lamb come up. I looked, and they were walking right up by me like 20 yards. And I stood there and took them about 5 minutes to get out of sight. And then I decided I better go back around because then they was going to see me if I didn't do things right. So I snuck back around the blowdown carefully when the wind blew. And then I got around that lower side of the blowdown, and I was working my way towards where I last saw the buck, and then I looked down below, and there was a doe down there. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So now I got to watch the doe. She's feeding. When she puts her head down or something, I take a step when the wind's blowing. And this whole process is probably like an hour. It's crazy. It was about an hour, this whole thing. And now I get I figure where I thought the buck might be laying down if it was. I still ain't sure it was, and I looked to the right, made sure the doe was not looking, and I looked back, and that buck is standing there right in front of me. It had stood up, and it's like 20 yards from me. Ass to, huge 8-point rack, probably one of the heaviest racks I can remember. It looked like baseball bats coming out of his head. And it was a weird rack. They went kind of like straight up, and then they just tipped forward, and but real high. It went up like, geez, I don't know, 15, 16 inches high, and then they turned straight ahead. And but anyway, it was a big deer. When I first looked, he had swung his neck around and like scratched the side of him with his antlers, and it looked like a Holstein neck, kind of just swinging, and I'm like, holy smokes. So anyways, he's back too. He's looking away from me, and I pull up, and at that time, I was still using my 721 Remington with a scope. So I think that had to been back in the late 80s. And anyways, I pull up, and his front shoulders, his front is lower, his back end's like up in the air. And when I pull up, there's about a 3-inch spruce blowdown right across his back end. And I'm trying to decide, because you see one like that, and you're all, you're thinking he's going to get away any second, so you're trying to make things, you're rushing along, and I'm like, I just instantly thought if I just pull right over the top of that blowdown, I'll break his back right at the base of the tail, It was about, I could see 3 or 4 inches of it right above that blowdown. So I pulled right down tight to that blowdown, and I fired, boom, and he jumps up in the air, and he don't know what's going on, and he starts going around. There was another one of them yellow birch blowdowns there. And I'd racked another shell, and I can't get a shot. And that doe down below took off, and he's running right towards her, and I ain't got no shot. And finally, when they get out there about 75, 80 yards, he comes clear of that blowdown, but he's in the brush down there, and I shot one more time, and I never cut a hair on that thing. And so that thing still haunts me. That what I did was I never thought about the barrel being, on that with a scope. Your barrel's 1.5 inches, 2 inches below. And I put that crosshair right over the very top of that, and I shot right into that thing, and it deflected it, obviously. But
yeah, I mean, you touched on something there that I think is another huge mistake, is just rushing.
Yeah.
We get into a situation, you spend all this time and effort to get into that moment, because it all boils down to a few seconds. And
split second sometimes. Yeah.
And like you said, you just knew that buck was just going to take off. I mean, there's not enough time to sit here and talk about how many times I've rushed it in the past and just blown it and didn't have to.
Yeah.
Deer wasn't spooked, didn't know I was there.
Yeah.
And
I think it's our desire to make something happen.
Yeah.
Well, you get excited, I mean.
But I mean, I wasn't rushing to the point like I thought. I just knew I needed to do something, so I said, yeah, I'll get him there. It never crossed my mind that I was, what would happen, the outcome of that. Because in retrospect, when we Monday morning quarterback, all I had to do was, if I'd have just shot under it, then I'd have got him, you know what I mean? If I'd shot under the blowdown, I'd have done the same thing. I wouldn't have probably broke the spine, but it would have gone right up and took everything out inside, and he'd have probably folded right up, or he wouldn't have got very far, but didn't do it. But yeah, that was a haunting one.
That is one thing I think that experience over time, that as you kill more deer and you spend more time in the woods, you do learn to slow down. When you get into a situation, you're not as like, you always get excited, but you can compose yourself and pull it together.
That's part of what people call buck fever. Not saying buck fever that you completely fall apart on, but it's just that buck has given you some kind of a fever where you got 100 things running through your mind about how you got to get him, and you can't sort the right one out.
It is. It goes back to that whole a day track, and I always think about it. It's a day of 1,000 decisions.
Oh yeah.
You're constantly playing chess and thinking, what's the deer doing? Where do I walk? What I'm stepping over. I'm going around. It's just constant decisions. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're making the decision on how to kill them, and it's just your mind's racing. That's what makes it so fun.
Yeah, for sure. Hal here, and I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about Onyx. Been using it now for about a year, deer hunting, moose hunting, turkey hunting, all of that. And really come to really like it. I like the satellite imagery mainly because I can locate hidden fields, for turkey hunting, the bogs for moose hunting. You can tell the different stage of cuts up here in the big woods for deer, whether it's clear cuts, select cuts, see the skid roads, and it's really a big help I found coming out at night. It's can really tell you like the easiest way to get out, if you got a couple miles, a couple hours to walk out. And so anyways, got the app on my phone, got the chip in my GPS, and I'm good to go. So not only that, it's used by 4,600 game wardens across the country, which is pretty incredible, and Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, wildlife biologists, and all that. They all use it, so I guess it's something you ought to be using too. So anyways, go to onx.com and you punch in the promo code BWB, and you're going to get a 20% discount. Good hunting. Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there. And it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about big wood stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you on there. So
it's hard to talk about mistakes, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think some people can learn from them, but that was, and sometimes you got to learn from your own. You can talk about mistakes and other people's, but sometimes you got to do them yourself and then learn from them. But I learned right then that would never happen again because it happened to me, and I'm like, oh yeah.
You threw the scope away.
Yeah.
And never use one again.
Yeah. But I think even knowing that with a peep sight, which is probably only 3/4 of an inch above the barrel, you still have to account for 3/4 of an inch, But I mean, like I said, I think I probably pulled that like right exactly. I might have left a little daylight above the edge of that, but obviously not enough. Now I know enough to, give myself a little bit of room for error there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. I told the story before, but I did that when I had a peep sight, but I had the Monte Carlo stock, and I rushed it.
Yeah.
Deer was 40 yards looking the other way. Big rack, beautiful buck. And that was just, I can still remember clearly, it was just come around, look, see him standing there, and I just thought I had to just hurry up and shoot him, There was no rush.
Yeah, but the biggest
shot right over him.
That really wasn't the biggest. The biggest part of that mistake was your gun didn't fit you in the first place. You should have had that taken care of.
Yeah, never even. That was something then. It never even crossed my mind. I figured I could get my face down on there, no problem, and it comes. But it's when you're not thinking about it and you're instinctively pull up and shoot. And I know I talked to you after it. Yep, you shot right over him.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's exactly what I did.
Yep.
But you live and learn.
That was on a big one too, huh?
Always is.
Always is on a big one.
Yeah, the one that no one can verify.
Yeah.
No, I remember when I can still see that deer in that rack, and when it was raining out. There was about a half inch of wet snow. Wind was blowing like crazy, so it was just super quiet, to walk. And I was walking along, and I poked around and saw him standing there, and just he was facing straight away. But I looked so quickly, all I saw was the rack, and I couldn't tell if he was looking at me or looking away. So I just pull up real quick, and he was looking away.
Yeah. I had one laid under a tree, and I couldn't see him, and I was looking and looking. And I tracked him for, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 hours in the morning. And I came into a spot that looked like a sheep pasture, and it was just him. And he was feeding and feeding and feeding. I'm like, holy mackerel, that deer's got to be here laid down. I mean, there was a 50-yard area just torn up. And I'm like, his belly's got to be so full, he's got to be here. And I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking. I'm looking under the trees, and I can't see nothing. And then finally I said, you dummy, he ain't here. It's wide open. I mean, there's only 6 trees to hide behind. There's no way he's here. He's got to be on top of that ridge. So I pulled my gun down. I took 3 steps, and he came up out of the ground behind those spruce tree. And I'm like, how did I not see him? I chased him the rest of the day, and that was a good one. And I ended up going back. Oh, it was almost a month later, and I found his left side, his shed.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he was a nice one. Stupid. I
Well,
missed one 9-pointer. I know it was a 9-pointer because the guy the next town over ended up shooting it. The deer was feeding on mushrooms. I came up over this ridge and I looked down and there's this smashing buck, and I'll never forget it because he had bone white horns, like they were white.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, look at that. And I had that 308 that I had run over during trapping season, which I got rid of, but I shot right under that deer. That was a rush shot, I was like, oh, look at that. Boom. I'm like, that's it. I got him. No problem. He jumped. I'm like, cool. Raining, pouring rain. Never cut a hair. But there's a lot of them. We could go on and on.
Yeah.
Lost one in a brook once. I don't think I hit him, but I could hear him running down the brook. He was standing right there. I couldn't see him. He must have been watching me for 2 or 3 minutes come up that tote road. He's just meandering up a tote road, like just from side to side, like he'd been drinking. And I'm like, what is he doing? And he pokes his head into this little thicket like he wants to lay down. He backs back out and goes a little further. And I'm like, he's got to be right here. And then finally I'm like, you dummy, there's no way that deer's going to lay down right beside that brook with a tote road like right here. You know them old tote roads that grow in?
Yep.
This was over in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. Them old tote road, that thing had grown into about 6 feet wide, and it was an old one, and it followed this brook line up, and it was about 8 to 15 feet or whatever between the brook and that tote road. And he kept poking in like the brook, like I thought at first like he wanted to cross the brook, but he didn't want to cross there. And then I thought, well, maybe he wants to lay down right here. And then I'm like, you dummy, he ain't going to lay down between this tote road and that brook. There's, it's just a little thicket. And then finally I jumped him out of there, and he jumped into the brook, and he went down that brook until I couldn't hear him anymore. Just splash, splash, splash. And it took me quite a while to get his track back, because I went down one side of the brook, then I went down the other side of the brook, and he had gone down quite a ways. And then when he came out, because he come out of that brook and jumped probably 10 or 15 feet, so I wasn't expecting that. I was looking for him to crawl up out of the brook, which, yeah, it was another mistake. But I'm glad those days are over.
What do you mean? You're not going to make any more mistakes?
No, I'm done. All done.
I think a mistake I've made in regards to like the overall hunt is going with too big a group. Guys will get it, 4 or 5 or 6 guys and
drive
come up. Yeah, I mean, it's too hard to. You spend your whole day worrying about where you're picking people up and who's where and all that stuff, and you don't want to be thinking about that.
Hal don't. He drops you off and says, "Good luck."
Well, he learned. See, he knows.
I learned that a long time ago. I used to try to organize that stuff up, especially like when we hunted down at the relatives' lodge. I mean, that's what we did. They wanted to plan things out, and I was just a kid. I was just going along with it, But once I started hunting up north, it was hard to make plans with other people. It's if you got one guy you're hunting with and you're going to meet up the end of the day, or you want to. Nowadays it's easier because you can inReach, or maybe you got a radio or something. But I mean, we didn't have none of that. We didn't do none of that. It was like, see you later. I'll see you tonight. The end of the day, or whatever, and meet you back at the truck, and that was fine. But
even with that, we went together this year one time, and it was I ended up back at the truck for 2 hours because of a miscommunication with the inReaches, and it wasn't working. And
right.
So, it's just, my favorite way to go is to jump my truck alone and just go, not have anyone else. But if you are going to go with someone, I recommend go with one other guy. You get too big a group, and it just becomes, especially in one vehicle. Now, it's just, unless you do like Lee does, if you're doing a big drive, Lee likes to orchestrate drives. He gets 6 or 8 guys with pots and pans, and
no, the pots and pans, that was the thing of the past. That was Southern Maine.
Yeah.
Up here it's dogs and run them.
But it does. It's little things like that. You know, if you're in the woods and you got other guys and you're on the track and you really want to be focused with nothing but your hunt that's going on, and then you're like, well, this deer's turning and he's going in the wrong direction, and I know that Bill's over here and I'm gonna have to meet up with him in an hour, and you know, it just it makes it more difficult. So I always tell people, if you're confident and you got the right equipment and stuff, just go on your own.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to worry about any of it.
Yeah, if you want to go with a buddy, usually it's like, I think you're better off to take two vehicles, and then you know, you might come out closer to your buddy's vehicle and go that way, and he might come out closer to yours or whatever. But
you just never know where the day's going to take you.
No,
you know, I mean, where you're going to start or end.
Yeah, you can't worry about it.
Well, then, and sometimes, you know, you might get out. You know, I don't know. You might have got wet, or your feet are wet, or it's cold, or you won't, you know, and then you don't know. You got to wait for your buddy. And
exactly.
He's 2 hours later than you are, and it's kind of ties up your time a lot, you know.
But you know, it's understandably so. There's a lot of guys. If it's your first time to an area, it can be intimidating to people, you know, going out alone. So you understand that. But we came up back when I was living down south and coming up in the fall. We were coming up with 4 or 5 guys, and it was just a mess.
A show.
Yeah. It's and we had GPSs, but we didn't have communication. We weren't radio. We didn't have inReaches and all that. So, all right, what time are we meeting back?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just one of those things you don't need to worry about when you're hunting.
Yeah, just get out by dark. That's all, you know. But it is, you know, for new people coming up and hunting in the big woods, you know, having a buddy with you is probably an advantage at the beginning. You know what I mean? Things can happen. You know, you might even just get your vehicle stuck. You're not used to the roads, or you're not used to what kind of mud you're going to sink in or whatever else.
Yeah, so misery loves company. Come on, Jimmy. Let's go.
My truck I just got it back today from lost my 4-wheel drive. I had a wire chafing under the dash that grounded out and was blowing the fuse for the 4-wheel drive motor, and you don't realize how bad off you have it until you don't have 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
In the winter up here.
I will say.
Because you can't do anything.
You can't. Those tires, I love those Yokohama tires.
Oh, yeah.
I could sell a few sets, too. Everybody's like, I want those tires. Yeah, they're good tires.
I'm really happy with mine still. I mean, I've been a year and a half now, almost, and probably 25,000 on them. I haven't looked lately, but
probably what I got on mine, and I look at them, and to me they don't even really look worn, you know. But
how about the price of 3/4 ton pickup trucks? Seen that lately? If you can find one.
My dad just bought one, and he actually got a really good deal. It's a Tradesman Dodge 2500 gas
that's
jobber.
A Dodge,
yeah. But I was surprised at the price he got on his.
Yeah, the Tradesman is like the
work model.
The work model. They're all white. I think they all come white.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all white.
Yeah. It's got the Ram boxes and.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the same. You know, they're a little more basic. You're not going to get all your bells and whistles on them, but.
No. Yeah, he doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
It's me that wants all that stuff. I got to have.
Yeah.
Leather.
I just got it because it was a good deal used, but now I kind of like it.
Yeah, he's got the leather Laramie seat.
I am all about the leather, and I'll tell you why, because they stay a lot cleaner. Like you can just wash your seat, you know what I mean? Not getting all nasty. But
I just put the seat covers on, and all are good.
Hal picked up my new snowmobile today.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. You didn't.
Yeah, he picked it up because he said Big Woods bought it for me, so he's. No, I got one, and my dad got the same sled, a Tundra, and so, yep. I told him I was getting it. I said I'm getting that new Tundra, and he's like, he went out with a ride with me, and I said, you know what? See if he's got another one down there. I want to get a new sled too. It's been 10 years or something. So anyway, I went to pick him up yesterday, and they hadn't studded my track, so Hal got it for me.
Is he going to leave the new one of his at camp?
Yeah, I'm gonna get decals made that say "lib" on it.
Lab.
Yeah, they won't know if we're talking about you or the liberal neighbor. But yeah, I'm excited to try that out.
Yeah, well, good luck finding snow. I got friends in British Columbia right now, and they're buried, but I can't get there. Trudeau won't let me in.
Nope.
Something about his ex-girlfriend or so. I don't know what it was. It was a Friday night late in Ottawa. You know, what happens in Ottawa should stay in Ottawa.
Oh.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, the deer are having a good winter. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was telling Joe on the way over. I don't remember another winter. I remember winters when we're coming into January here. We're creeping in on the middle of the month, but I can remember a few other winters. We didn't have much snow around Christmas and stuff, but I never remember a winter where we didn't have the snow and it hasn't been cold. I mean, we got it's like November weather, huh?
97, the first year I came to Snowdale in Rangeley. We were on Moose Lake Mechanic. I want to say 97, maybe 98. No, it might even been 96. And it rained that whole weekend. Poured.
On New Year's or Christmas?
No, that's January 21st, that weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
third
kidding.
weekend.
Yeah,
Martin
that was
Luther
Yeah,
weekend.
I'm gonna go back and say it was 96.
Yes,
And,
I've seen those rains in there, but I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like we ain't had hardly anything for cold weather and snow since deer season.
Last night was the coldest night in Rangeley in 2 weeks, and it was 18 when I got up this morning.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
the coldest I've had over at the house, I think it was 8 below one morning. That was just once. It might have been 0 or a couple below and the next morning, but like just for a couple days. But I mean, it's unreal for the deer. I mean,
Yeah.
and they can get around like this time of year. I was telling Joe, it's like now it doesn't matter what the winter does. It couldn't be bad enough now to affect them.
We poured concrete yesterday.
Yeah,
At your
Crazy.
place?
Nope, at the place we're building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little nervous, but we blanketed it. I checked my blankets this morning. Everything's good, so we'll backfill Monday and go.
yeah,
For January, that's unheard of. Just
yeah.
crazy.
I took a ride yesterday up north a little bit. Thought I'd poke around, look for a moose antlers for something to do. And there's about 8 inches of snow. That's what I got at my house. It was a little more probably between the two. Since Christmas, we had 2 snows. We had one. We lost all the snow like at Christmas. It rained, and then
Lost all the snow.
like all the snow,
Oh, yeah.
the whole state. I mean, right
Yeah.
to the Allagash. There was not a lick of snow, and then we got about 5 inches right after that, and then we got. I think it was New Year's Day it started, and we got about 8 more. So it was about a foot, but it's settled down now to it's maybe 8 inches.
You hardly see any deer around town. Usually this time of year, I got at least 6 or 8 living right behind the shop here in a half-acre wooded lot right in the village. And I got none back there now.
Yeah, no, they ain't the same way. The same way over home. My point was I was up north where usually those deer there's no place to really yard up there. So those deer, well, they either go to Canada or they're going somewhere a long distance. So they leave early usually, but there was still deer up there. Not a lot, but there was some deer tracks up in that country, just driving around them roads. My snow machine looking for an antler. There was periodically I'd see a deer track and like, holy smokes, And
Yeah, Dave Jones said they got about 30 they're feeding right now. So that's quite a few right behind their house
yeah,
that are coming in. But I think that's the last time I talked to Gordon, that's all he had in the Forks. There's usually 120 there.
yeah, no,
So they got it easy.
they're better off not coming down to town. There's so much to feed. I went the day before that. I checked. I had put them cameras I told you about on the migration trails there, and one of them I went by the day before yesterday, and there was less tracks in that migration trail than there was a month ago.
Really?
Because they went down. I don't know if I was telling you that. I checked a couple of them cameras because they had like small SD cards in them, and there was around the 14th of the month, there was a bunch of deer came. Seemed like all in one day or two there. It was 20, 25 deer. And then most of them went back. They turned around. They were all going back up the trail, And that trail still, I mean, I don't know, there was a half a dozen or 10 tracks coming down that crossing 2 days ago. But they're just feeding along the roads. They're just anywhere. There's not enough snow to keep them. Make them move. So it's good. It's really good for them.
You did a little coyote hunting this week.
Yeah, we gave it a whirl. We didn't do very much. We had a couple of the guys come up from down the coast there, and we didn't get one, but we give it a try anyways. Not a lot. It's really, like I said, we've been thinning them every year, but
I could show you some down my way. We're going to have to run the dogs. I know they got some time off.
yeah, we got
to head
sounds
south a
fun.
little, out behind Parland Mountain and stuff. There's some coyotes around.
There was a lot up north where I went, but like our regular places, like around the deer yards, there was no tracks in the deer yard, really. I mean, when you get up away from the outside of it towards the back of the lake there was a couple that played around in there, and then there was a couple down along the stream, and that was about it.
But why would they come in really if the deer aren't in, like they usually are?
Yeah.
They'll come once the snow comes.
Yeah, they'll follow the rest of the deer down, I'm sure.
And the snow will come, right, Lee?
Oh,
Say
yeah.
it'll come.
Yep. Well, I've been holding off a little bit. My sled's not done, so.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Sled's not done. No snowdeo, no events. Why do we need snow?
Yeah. Well, there's no. They canceled all the sportsman shows this winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of It's actually, in a way, for me, it's probably going to be a little bit of a help because my honey's got to have her back operated on this winter. Did I tell you that, Lee?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad one, but we're going to end up going to Connecticut and getting that done by a specialist down there, back fusion and stuff. So I'll be tending to her most of the winter, I guess, because I guess she'll be in a back brace and won't be able to do a lot.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall in the house. Oh, Hal's going to do some cooking and cleaning. They're both going to lose some weight.
Hey, Hal cooked breakfast for me this morning.
Oh,
he did a pretty good job. We had elk steak.
Yeah, everybody thinks I can't
omelet.
cook. I get
I
blamed.
didn't say that.
Yeah.
A nice pastry. A cup of coffee.
He didn't make the pastry.
No,
I didn't make that.
Little Debbie did. Get
Yep.
it? Little Debbie.
Yeah.
gotcha.
I made him an omelet. I made him elk back straps.
Nice.
I wasn't going to say they were a little bit overcooked, but I let him bite in and see that. But they were delicious. They were still tender.
Yeah, I let them get away from me. I put them in one pan, and I had it on low, and I was cutting up peppers and stuff and mushrooms for the omelet.
I was cutting up
You
peppers.
know better than to put all your Outback straps in one frying pan.
Why?
Because you don't put all your eggs in one basket, do you?
No, but sometimes you're trying to get things done in a hurry.
I love elk. It's delicious. Like caribou, too. You know what else is good is antelope.
Never had antelope.
Oh, it's
Never
delicious.
had either, but sheep's really good. I know Doll.
Never had
sheep's
caribou?
good, but oh, yeah.
What didn't you? Caribou?
I didn't have antelope.
Oh.
Yeah. I think caribou is probably one of the best. Elk is very similar to moose, but I remember years ago, back in the 80s, we took one of them trips up to northern Quebec caribou hunting back when you could shoot two. There was 6 of us that went. And when we got back, we all shot 2 caribou. When we got back, we had a big cookout. We all brought a bunch of caribou out, and I don't know how much we cooked, but there was probably, 50, 60, 70 people there.
Oh, wow.
Couples and kids, and everybody was there, and we just kept cooking, and everybody raved about that because nobody had ever had it before, right? And everybody was raving about that, how good that meat was, and it's a little different than anything else, but it's really very good meat.
I had it for the first time when we were out in Alaska, and we were getting ready to jump in the plane to get dropped, and Jeremy, our transporter, his wife came running out with this little dish. It was like a salad with caribou meat over the top. And I don't know if it was just because I was really hungry but it was one of the best pieces of meat. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I said, what the heck? Oh, it's caribou. Yeah. Well, I got to come back and hunt one of those. So,
yeah, that's good.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parland Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlandlodge.com.
Hey everyone, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the Woodman Arms Muzzleloader. We got them all set on the website to build your own or buy your Big Woods Bucks model, either one you want to do. But anyways, we've tested it a lot, and I can honestly say it's the most accurate muzzleloader on the market, best to carry in the Big Woods or anywhere else at 5.5 pounds. You can't go wrong with it. So get on there and check it out.
So as we're getting close to wrapping up here, we're not going to be, even though there was some request for us to do a political talk show, we're not going to do that. But I want to say I do appreciate all the feedback we got, and we got a lot of feedback.
And it was all good.
It was, yeah. It was
all good.
I had a couple people that didn't like it, but, can't please everyone. But, more than any other episode, via email, private messages, texts, comments. So the only reason I wanted to bring it up again is we're going to speak freely, whatever's on our mind, whatever. We're not going to make it a political show, but we're just going to, because that's what we want to do.
That's going to be the next podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to tell, I get a lot of messages on Facebook and stuff like that. I am no longer on Facebook. So if you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of the company. I'll get back to you. You can call me, text me.
You'll ignore them then?
I'm not, but I'm not. That's I was done with it.
Yeah.
And I don't spend a lot of time on it. I use that marketplace a lot.
Yeah.
So that's going to kind of be a pain a little bit, but I see people calling other people stuff on there that they would never say to their face, friends, that you knew were friends. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Hey, and family.
And they fight over it. And then you get husbands and wives that can't sit in the same room and talk because neither one of them are paying attention to what's going on. And that's not me. That's not me and my girl. But it was a lot of that. I probably spent 45 minutes a day on it, between marketplace and just whatever. But that's over. And then I think the big thing was when Zuckerberg decided he could censor whoever he wanted to censor. And that's Chinese communist shit right there. I don't care who you are. That's what it is. And I'm not into it. So I'm out, but my phone number's at the shop. Call me. If you're in Rangeley, stop by and see me. I think I'm going to see more people now. Can you imagine a world without Facebook?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I'm thinking seriously the same thing about getting rid of my account. And, to do the Big Woods page, it's going to have to be weaned off onto something, but we got to figure out what the alternatives is, I guess. And
yeah, that's the challenge I have. Is I've thought about that too, because it's a problem. It becomes addictive. There's no question. If you're looking, like for me, between the lodge and Big Woods and the snowmobile club, it's something that
it's free advertising.
You have to monitor it and you have to use it, but it can become where it's like you're just nonstop and you catch yourself. You're like, what the hell am I doing? I'm looking at this thing all the time, and it's not good.
Yeah, and some of these people, and you listen to what they say, and you're like, that's not, those guys are buddies. They're not supposed to be.
Well, the thing is it's turned in, I was probably, I don't know if I was late to the party on it, but I haven't been on it all that long, maybe 6, 8, probably 8 years or something, but I just always assumed it was an easy place to communicate with people. And the good thing about it was I know a lot of people that I'd lost touch with over the years, you know what I mean? That whether it was old Marine Corps buddies or whatever, it's a way for people to find you, that they may not any other way. And I thought it was actually pretty cool for that, you know what I mean? You could reconnect with people because they could look you up or you could look them up if you wanted to, but it's just kind of got away from, I think, to me was the intent of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a show it's on Netflix or one of the streaming services called Social Dilemma, and it's about social media and how it's addictive it is. I haven't seen it yet.
Really?
And I've heard so much about it. I know that right when I watch it, it's gone. I'm deleting it because it's gonna be a wake up call, a smack in the face, because it is programming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about it that they do things on there that just keep you, And
you know what puts me to sleep at night? I watch.
We can't talk about it on here at least.
No.
Oh, hammer hand.
I watched an episode of Grizzly Adams the other night.
No kidding.
Yeah, you want to talk about calming? It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like
nostalgic.
Yeah, and it's cool. And like I said, we have rules. We cook together, we clean together, we eat together, and then we go to the other room and turn the boob tube on, But I'm done. I want to spend more time. I can't get any time back, and if you take 45 minutes a day and add it up, that's 5 hours a week that you just lost. And I know we can find something else to do.
Yeah,
yeah. What we've been doing is watching like old movies and stuff, It's funny. You know what else we've been watching? You're going to laugh. Looney Tunes.
You're right.
You shouldn't tell anyone that, Hal.
I'm not kidding you. Well, we started doing it with the birds. So the other bird, Ollie, he liked
Going to the birds.
I don't know if it was...
Hal, we're going to lose followers here, okay? You can't tell people you're watching Looney Tunes?
Yeah. The funniest thing is because we put it on for the birds, and for some reason, both the birds we've had, they love it. And I don't know if it's the tone of the voice or the action or what's going on, but they seem to like chime in with it and like it. But anyways, so it's on, and the birds watching it.
What do they think of Sylvester?
I don't know what they think of him. But we watched them Looney Tunes, when I was a kid, 50-something years ago, probably more when I started listening to them, almost 60 years ago. And you hear some of the older ones, and the funny thing is you listen to them, and all the adult innuendos and stuff that are in them that you never picked up on when you was a kid. Me and Deb look at each other and laugh like heck about them because it's funny that they were in there that long ago. And if anybody's listening, you ought to go listen to some of them old, Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd and all of that stuff.
Some guy's driving home in his truck right now going, if I have to listen to Barney one more time, I'm going to smash that TV.
Hal's words of wisdom for the week. You got to start watching Looney Tunes.
Foghorn Leghorn. Boy, yeah. I say boy.
So when this comes out,
I don't know where we're going from here. I really don't.
Downhill.
Yeah.
So by the time this airs, Brutus is going to have its big premiere.
Is that tonight? Are we actually going to see that?
Yeah.
It's tonight.
If it doesn't show, then this is going to really
don't show it on Facebook.
No, it's going to be on YouTube at 7:00. Well, it don't matter if I announce that because the people that didn't see it on Saturday night, it'll be on YouTube.
Friday night. It's Friday.
Friday night. Yeah,
Friday night.
Friday, Saturday. So, difference it make. So it's on YouTube now. So if you want to see my hunt there, and sorry it took so long to get it out. Hope you enjoy it.
It took longer than mine, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. But
they did the Star Wars trilogy, and got that out.
Hey, good.
Faster.
Good things take time,
Right.
It needs music.
So we said all that to say all this. Mistakes.
Don't make them.
Yes.
Yeah,
make them. I was
actually,
going to say the opposite. You have to make your own mistakes. Now you learn, maybe a little bit from ours or whatever, but you're still going to have to make your own. And, the whole thing is we call them mistakes, but they're really just learning curves. You know what I mean? It's all part of the learning process. I still make the same mistakes over and over, and I tell myself, don't do it, but I still do it. Sometimes it's like, what's that saying? Keep repeating it, doing the same thing and expecting a different result,
Yeah, definition of insanity.
It's the same thing because it's almost going to be the same result. But
I heard that from Kevin Harrison every day we were logging. The
yeah,
he was right, too.
Yeah, he was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go out there, hunt hard, learn from the deer, make some mistakes. Hopefully you'll learn from them.
There's probably about 100 of them that we didn't touch on that people are thinking about. Send them in. Send them as a question or a message, because it is, sometimes you sit here and you don't think about everything that.
Yeah, I'd be interested if people sent them in a message. I think a lot of people are sending me them ones on question of the month. There's still a place where I answer the questions now because it was taking too long to get to everybody. But if somebody sends me a question of the month there, I think it's through the club, but I'll get right back to you on it. But I'd be interested to see if anybody's made a mistake that I ain't, because I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
I've made a lot of them, but it's made a lot of memories too.
Memories.
So, well, anyways, good to get over to Rangeley again here, Lee.
About time.
Yeah, we're going to run over to Lee's house and watch Looney Tunes now.
Yep. Yeah.
We're all going to be sitting in front of the TV with a bowl of cereal.
Lee
Fruit Loops.
Lee and Chrissy cooks us supper.
Yeah. I got 2 snowmobiles right in the living room I got to put together.
In the living room?
Well, the living room of the new house, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Number 3 ain't wicked happy about that, but.
What'd you get?
About the snow machines or about him being in her house?
Yeah, either, really. I'm building a lightweight 850 this year. I hadn't built one. I built one not last year, the year before. And that was an 800 RMK, weighed 381.
Really?
381. Yep, dry.
Nice.
Carbon fiber, titanium, shit. Hal would
NASA
be
stuff.
like, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
But I got an 850 Patriot now that is getting
You just bought
down.
it for the name, didn't you?
Patriots.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seen him play football lately?
Nope. Don't care about the Patriots.
Not those Patriots, Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, you'll get her straightened out.
Oh, yeah. What, number 3 or the sled?
Number 3.
Oh, shit. She listens to these too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for her.
Oh, yeah.
She listens to you enough. She doesn't need to
She
do an extra hour of it.
She laughs.
Yeah. All right. Well, time to head home, Joe. Get home time for the premiere, hopefully. Until next week. Oh, weren't we supposed to do something about ring the buzzer or the bell and check us out on Facebook?
Don't check us out on. Oh, yeah. You check you guys out on Facebook.
Yeah. No, especially on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to our channel. It's building. It's doing well. We got quite a few followers on there, and love the comments and hearing about everything that's up there. I think there's probably going to be a couple on the Brutus video.
Yep.
Probably mostly that it needs music.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. I just want to see
I just
it.
love pestering on it.
I just want to see it. All right.
Yep.
I got to go back to work. You guys took 2 hours of my day.
All right. Well, till next time, good luck on the trail. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.